I apologize for the noise. Next door's offices are being refurbished. It's unavoidable, I'm afraid. So tell me, why are you here?
I'm 30.
Well, lots of people are 30. Why is being 30 significant to you?
I'm 30 and I haven't lived my own life yet. I'm 30 and I live with 7 other people.
Well, let's break that down then. When you say that you haven't lived your life yet, what exactly haven't you done?
You know what I have inside my head, don't you, Doc? You know that when I say I live with 7 other people, I'm not talking about a full house, right? I'm talking about my head. 7 people live inside my head.
Well, one of the things is you, Matt. And yes, I'm aware that you share your headspace with your family.
Share wouldn't be the word that I'd use. Forced would be the right one. I was forced to give up my headspace for my family.
Family is important. Don't you feel like you're doing something kind, sharing your headspace with your family, especially your parents, who would no longer be with us without you sacrificing a certain percentage of yourself for them? In my eyes, that's a very brave thing to do.
I don't see it that way.
Then tell me how you see it. Tell me your experience.
Fine. Buckle in. Death. It's something that you're told at a young age happens to everyone. That your goldfish is dead, or that one day mummy and daddy won't be around anymore. It's meant to mature you, make you appreciate the time that you have with those you care about. But that's a really old way of looking at it now. Like most things now, even death needs an update. My parents died separately, a few years apart. My dad in 2035 and my mom in 2038. But they didn't leave. Thanks to the wonders of technology, death is something of an inconvenience now. Another speed bump to get past, but no longer the dead end that it used to be. People don't have to stay dead now. And as of this conversation, both my parents are alive. In my head. Lucky me.
How did it feel to know that you weren't going to lose your parents in the same way that other families who are less fortunate than yours would have, being unable to access such a life-changing service?
My family aren't fortunate. Far from it. They're not even well off. They just saved up for a long, long time. My parents were smart. Not in the same way as you being smart or I being smart, but they called a lot of things. They predicted a lot of stuff that, if they'd put money on it, would have made us very well off. They saw the whole HEADSPACE thing coming 19 years ago, around the same time that they decided to have me, the youngest. I'll come back to that. My parents wanted to see what tomorrow would bring. They were hoping that by now, the world would have access to transfer worlds, as they called it. Worlds completely online that users can control using only their thoughts, and that even those who have passed on, as long as their minds are transferred into a storage unit like a hard drive or a cloud, they could use them They basically wanted to live forever in virtual holiday worlds. Most of what they've predicted has happened. I'll give them that. The launch of Life After in Nottingham, the global release of Hollow Worlds, which was like their holiday worlds. It's all coming together. Their plan. But not fast enough. They keep telling me. They won't shut up actually about it. Speaking of, how come I can't hear them?
In here, we can mute them, so that you have the opportunity to speak, uninfluenced by their opinions, and often interruptions with people like myself, and the offers we can provide to you, to people, the hosts, might be something they disagree with, so we mute them, to allow you to speak as yourself.
Well, if there's a way of being able to mute them after this conversation, maybe forever, then that would be fan-dabby-dozy.
Do you not get on with your parents, or the rest of your family?
No, I don't. Of course I don't. If everything was going well, I wouldn't be here now, would I? I don't get on with them because, like I mentioned earlier, I don't have a life.
Go on.
I was never meant to have a life. Of my own, I mean. My life was meant to be a second chance at life for my parents. They knew that this tech would exist within my lifetime, and towards the end, if not the end of theirs. I was born not because they wanted another child, but because I was born to be a vessel, their vessel, to hold off death for a couple more decades until the virtual holiday worlds that they had planned were fully realized. I was never meant to be a person in my own right. My older brothers and sisters, they got to be who they wanted, see who they want, eat what they want, and be with who they want. I didn't get those choices. I was raised the same way that people raise animals, show animals. I was only given healthy foods. I was made to exercise a lot, and I wasn't allowed to have friends or have interests of my own. I was a blank slate that they could keep away from danger and excitement until the world was ready for them to return to it. They didn't want me fat or damaged. I'm 30, and I haven't had a moment to myself since I was born. I was in my early 20s when HEADSPACE was announced, and my parents leapt for bloody joy. Yet again, being able to say that they called it. They put a lot of their savings away for the eventual public release of HEADSPACE, and for the tech needed for transference to work out its early adopter bugs. Then came the day that I was told that I would be hosting my dad in my head once he died. I didn't know how to feel, 'cause of course you want them to be happy. You want to say that you are grateful to be able to keep your dad around and that death isn't the end. But I didn't feel that way. I felt like all of the things that happened to me before that, all the exercise and healthy foods and zero hobbies, had been training me for this. I had been told my purpose, my whole reason for existing in the first place, and I wept in front of them. The first time in my life I wept because I knew that my life was a lie, and that this was where it was heading, and that it wasn't just going to stop with my dad. I was fitted with the transference app and supported hardware a month later. And then all I had to do was sacrifice 10% of myself to the cloud. Memories, hard data, personality traits, 10% of what was in my head had to go to make room for the space my dad would be occupying. For the life of me, I don't remember what I sacrificed. I don't know if it was important, because I don't remember. But for a tenth of you to be taken away, for it to be lopped off, and not replaced with more of yourself, but with something else that isn't you, you feel emptier. When my dad died, I was scared, because I knew what was coming. I didn't mourn the same way that other people did. They laid me on a special table, and I watched as the machine emptied out my dad and separated the parts of his memories and shit that he didn't want, and he put that on his personal cloud. They did that before putting the rest of him in my head. I freaked out the first time I heard his voice in my head. The perfectly captured voice of a man that really didn't want another son, but instead wanted a courier for his soul. I felt like he had possessed me, that I now was trapped with him in my head for the rest of my life, if the tech didn't arrive fast enough. And so far it hasn't. My mum died a while later, and then my brothers, then my sister. They had the great ideas of joining in. They weren't up for the hollow world's life that my parents wanted, but they also wanted to live forever. And with them being a few decades older than me, decided that they didn't want to go through old age. They wanted android bodies with their minds inside it. So in my head I have my dad, my mom, my 3 older brothers, my sister, and me. The whole fucking family is in here. And not because they want to spend quality time with one another, but because they fear death and want to hold out for something better, or to completely avoid it. They're using me as an escape. By the way, although I told her that it was 10% of me that I had to sacrifice for my dad, well, to get everyone in, I've had to sacrifice 90% of my mind to them, because they all wanted 15%, as they felt that they had lost too much of themselves with just 10% in my head. My head. I have lost 90% of myself. I space out sometimes for ages. I think it's because I'm freezing up trying to access something that's just not there. Or maybe I'm overheating. I don't know. I don't remember birthdays, or school, or most of my childhood, besides, the bullet points. I have had no life at all, and unless something drastically changes sometime soon, I don't know if I'll have any other choice but to kill myself. But the only problem with that is the fact that as much as I want to do that, I would technically be committing murder. 6 murders. As the primary parts of my family's personalities are in my head, and by killing myself, it would mean that they would be erased or killed as well. And even though I hate them, I couldn't do that to them. I told you to buckle in.
What you have told me is deeply saddening, and I truly feel your plight.
But you're going to tell me that there's nothing you can do.
No. There are things that you can do. What I was going to say was that if I were you, knowing what I now know, do you think that you could live without them? They've been a part of your life for so long that do you know what you would do with yourself if you were freed from their presence in your mind? What kind of life would you make for yourself?
Any life is better than the life that I have now. I'm being honest when I say that. Any life would be better than the hell that I'm living now. Do you know what my family have got me doing now? They've got me talking to people that I don't know, their friends, their acquaintances. And because it's all the rage now, I've been speaking to the kids of those people in a similar position, having conversations where my family will give me a line to say, like it's a fucking sitcom. I'll tell that to that person so that the voices in that other person's head can listen in and then use their child to answer back. It's fucking ridiculous. And I can't take it. So, what can I do now?
There are a few options that I can recommend.
I'm listening.
Option 1, you could transfer a member of the family into another person's mind.
No one would want these people in their heads. Plus, I'm the only family member left. I couldn't pawn any of them onto anyone else, cause most of them are in somebody else's head too. So next.
Okay. Option 2, you could fully store them into the cloud. It is something that has become available, although it is a few months off being integrated to the scale that you would like. Like you've mentioned, they're working out the bugs, as you say. You would be entitled to that with a recommendation from me. The treatment would be free as well. I can ensure that you would be signed up for that as soon as it becomes available.
That's fantastic. What would happen to their personalities if they were fully uploaded to the cloud?
They would be, for a lack of a better phrase, sleeping. Awaiting that perfect future that they so desperately want.
That's great. How long is a few months, though?
Around 8 to 9 months projected.
That's doable. I can last 9 months. So, how do I sign up?
Leave that to me. I will get the service ready, and I will send all the necessary paperwork for you to sign.
So, in 9 months, I could be alone. Alone for the first time in, well, forever.
I think that this is the right option for you. You will be able to spread your wings and choose your own path. I do have some advice for you though, however.
What?
See a family counsellor. Get your issues with your family out of your system. And when the time comes and they can leave, it won't be on bad terms. Things will be much more harmonious.
That's not a bad idea. I think that they'll agree if I tell them the long-term goal.
Exactly. So, shall I book you in for an update in a few months' time to see how you're going?
That would be nice. Thank you.
Not a problem. Let me see you out. See this as the great opportunity that it is, and that everything will work itself out in the end.
Oh well. Thank you.